Bonjour à tous et bienvenue sur Oakinvest. Aujourd'hui, on se retrouve à Paris. On est à l'ETHEC et aujourd'hui, on accueille l'une des personnalités, je pense, que j'admire le plus dans ce milieu, qui est Mudit Gupta, qui est le Chief Security Officer de Polygon, la blockchain de Layer 2. Et on va parler un peu de son expérience. Et il est également énormément investi dans tout ce qui est cybersécurité. Au niveau des hacks également, il contribue énormément à l'écosystème. And so, l'interview va se passer en anglais. And now we will switch in English. So, Mudit, first of all, welcome. It's an honor to welcome you here. You're one of the first accounts I followed and I activated the notifications on when I got on the crypto Twitter. So, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Nice to talk to you.
So, just to start with, we're always asking, how did you get into crypto? When was it? Around what time?
Yeah, I got into crypto around 2013. So I got in through Monero actually, and precursor to Monero, CryptoNote. I was from there, I got into Monero, and from there I went to Bitcoin and then to Ethereum. And from Ethereum, I worked on Polkadot. I've worked on a bunch of other chains now, helping Polygon. So yeah.
Okay, and so your journey has been. You have been to. So now you're Chief Security Officer of Polygon.
Yes.
But what were the companies that you worked for before?
Yeah, sure. So I'll walk backwards. Before Polygon, I was at SushiSwap. So I was leading R&D and security at SushiSwap. And before that, I was at Polymath. I was leading blockchain development at Polymath. Before that, bunch of other smaller crypto companies. And then before that, before the blockchain era, I was working for traditional security.
Okay, and so what made this switch for you? Because I guess when you're going into crypto, especially in the early days, you're taking a huge risk. Did you see like an opportunity there? Did you think that it was something that could be, I don't know, life-changing for you?
So I honestly didn't care about money. I just liked the technology. I liked the work I was doing here, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. Financially, I was lucky enough to not have any student loan debts or anything like that. My parents paid off for my education, so I didn't have any liabilities or burdens. So even like fresh out of college, I had the option to either go for Amazon, work there, where I would have earned maybe 5 times more than a crypto startup at that time. But I chose the crypto startup just because I liked it. It was fun work. I was doing it while I was in college. I was like, okay, this is something I like. I want to do it. And that turned out to be the right decision, obviously. Crypto blew up and I think I've done fairly well. So that was good.
Okay, nice. And so today you're not only the Chief Security Officer of Polygon, you also contribute to other stuff. So for example, when there are hacks, you're trying to explain what happened. You're trying to backtrack like everything that was going on. And you're also pretty active on Twitter. So what is your typical day like? For example, when you wake up, what are the things that you do today?
Yeah, for sure. As soon as I wake up, I first check my notifications. There are always lots of Slack messages, lots of emails, lots of Telegram messages, lots of Twitter DMs. And I try to respond to as many things as possible. Maybe like not all of them, but that's how my day starts. And then you get your breakfast, you do your morning stuff, you get ready, and then I start working. I work for a few hours. In Polygon, like the working timings are very flexible. So I work for a few hours in the morning. I go out for lunch, then I actually take an extended break, an extended lunch. So after lunch, I maybe meet up with friends, maybe do my like house chores or do some shopping, go out, have some fun. And then I come back in the evening. And then I have lots of calls. Usually I'm based out of Dubai. So when I'm working with people from US, people from Canada and East Coast, West Coast, those time zones, then obviously like my evenings and their mornings work perfect. So in the evenings, yeah, my evenings are packed with calls. And then yeah, like maybe sometimes even 4 or 5 hours of calls. And after those are done, I get some quiet time. If there is something I want to concentrate on and do, I do it then and then back to bed.
Okay. And do you see Twitter as an essential part to your job? Do you think it's
Yes.
It's a really good tool for you?
Yes, it is. So Twitter is a medium where you can get the latest crypto information. And in this space, things move so fast that you really have to be on the top. you have to catch up with everything or you just get left behind. Especially if you're working on fields like security, where you have to know the latest techniques, tips and tricks what everyone is using to be like one step ahead of the hackers. Twitter is a great medium for that. It's a great learning resource. Obviously, there's lots of noise on Twitter, so you have to really find a curated list of people to follow. And once you do that, then Twitter is a really fun medium and really fun way to learn things.
And now let's go a little bit into the security, let's get a bit techie. During you had many talks here, either at Polygon or during ECC. And you talked about threats to the blockchain and like basically the wallets, etc. And I asked you this question, but I would like to ask you this on the video so we can talk about it. It was about 2FAs. So today 2FAs are seen as one of the measures of security which are really important, especially for centralized exchanges, for whatever social media you're using, etc., etc. Do you think that a 2FA for on-chain transactions, etc., would be a good means of preventing hacks, or is hardware secure enough for that?
Okay, so it really depends on the way you implement it. You don't really need 2FAs on top of a hardware wallet to do everything that a hardware wallet does, but 2FA makes lots of sense when you're managing a treasury or something like that. And 2FA in the sense that it's a multi-sig. So if you are managing anything that is very critical, then you should, instead of using an EOA like a hardware wallet, you should use a multi-sig and maybe start with a 2x3, 3x4, 4x5, to whatever configuration you want. The most basic one I would say is 2x3, where there are 3 people on the multisig and you need 2 to approve anything to do it. It gives you security and some safety as well. Security in the sense that at least 2 people need to sign it, at least 2 needs to be compromised for anything bad to go wrong. And it gives you safety as well, in the sense that even if one person out of the 3 loses their key, your funds are still there. If you only use a hardware wallet, you don't get that safety. If you lose your key and your hardware wallet, your funds are gone. You can't do anything. And you don't get that security either. Maybe if your hardware wallet is compromised for whatever reasons, then it's just all gone.
And we are seeing some hacks happening in the ecosystem, and we have some protocols doing their own audits, which are internal. Then we have some external ones. So for example, the Avis budget for 1 year is crazy. I think it's over $1 million for 1 year only. You have some audits within Polygon as well, which are internal and external. Do you think that, first of all, are audits important?
Yes.
Then which companies should you go for, and which ones are the best, internal or external?
Okay.
Or a combination, basically.
Yeah, for sure. Audits are 100% important. If you are building anything that is critical, you definitely need audits. For context, like Polygon has spent over $4 million in audits in last 1 year. I know companies that have spent even more, that are building more products. For example, Layer 0, they do lots of upgrades. They have spent over $10 million in 1 year overall on audits. Aave has spent multiple millions of dollars and so on. So audits are definitely important, and this spend shows you that we care about audits. As far as internal and external goes, both audits are important. So they both have their own use case. You can't just have one. You need to have both. Internal audits, they don't only mean like just people looking at the code at the end. Internal audits are more broad, like they're continuous security engagements. The security people that are internally, they keep an eye on the code from start to the end, and they continuously keep reviewing it. Additionally, the developers themselves have that security mindset, and when they're building it out, they keep security in mind. So that component is super important. And finally, external audits are also important, because if you are just looking at the code continuously, you might make some assumptions about the code. You're like, okay, this function obviously does this, no bug, we move on. But there might be some edge case which you miss, and that's where external eyes come in, and they can find those silly mistakes, silly edge cases that you might have missed.
Yeah, and it's an example. For example, when you were at school or at university, when you go over and over your own what you have written by yourself, you get used to it, and maybe you miss the small mistakes. And so that's why an external audit or external view should be important for anything. we have seen some drama a few months ago about Ledger Recover, their new function. Do you think that it is a threat to the private keys that are held by Ledger? So for example, when you buy Ledger, you thought that they could not extract the key. Well, actually they can. And so do you think that it's something important and something critical to the future of Ledger, basically?
So I don't think it's gonna be critical to Ledger's future, but as a feature, I don't like it. It does expose your keys to third parties that are centralized, and they are not great for security. But at the same time, the response that community gave them was maybe a bit too much. The reason is like Ledger was, if anyone understands how hardware wallets work, they knew Ledger was always able to extract keys from there. Same with other wallets. If you're using Grid Plus, for example, they can also do the same thing. The only promise is that they are not doing it, and we trust them on that. And so from that perspective, the security assumptions haven't changed. It's still an opt-in feature. I would recommend people to not opt into it, but if you are not opting into it, then it's the same. The security practices and assumptions are still the same there. If you were trusting Ledger before this feature, you can continue trusting them after this feature.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting that still we are like, don't trust, verify, but we still have to rely on this trust for the tools that we're still using, basically.
Yeah, the thing is like you can't verify everything. You can't go down to the bottom of manufacturing of these silicon chips. So at some point you will have to trust that someone else is verifying. It's the same as like making food at home. So you make food, you don't grow your own vegetables, not all of them at least. You don't cut your own meat most of the time. So even if you are cooking, you're trusting that someone else didn't poison your vegetables or something like that. It's gonna be like that. Like you'll be handling most of the things. It would be all transparent. So the thing is like if you wanted to test, you should be able to test. Like if you wanted to test your food for poisoning, you should be able to test. And if someone is caught poisoning it intentionally or unintentionally, the news spreads as fire, and maybe one person gets exploited, others are saved. So the chances of a hack or an incident happening are very low. And it's the same trust assumptions here, that if Ledger was to ever be malicious, first of all, like it would be stupid for them. They are all dogs, it's all legal regulated entities and so on. And the second is they would be caught relatively quickly. Everything is public on the chain. And as soon as they are caught, maybe one person loses their money, everyone else will stop using it and will be fine.
Yeah, and I think on the other hand as well that most of the people that are using Ledger, they don't understand the hardware technology, they don't know the code, and so they have to trust either Ledger or the people that are more familiar with the matter, like you, for example, to say that this is good or this is bad as well. Yeah. Let's now switch a little bit. We've talked a little bit about cybersecurity. Let's talk about blockchains, essentially. Sure. So we have seen many L1s being deployed, and then we will talk about L2s as well. But do you believe in a multi-chain future, or do you think that Ethereum will capture the most of the value with basically the smart chain contracts?
Okay, so I really strongly believe in a multi-chain future. I'm not a big fan of cross-chain, so I don't think things will move across chains every now and then and so on. But multi-chain, 100%. There are going to be different chains with different purposes. Ethereum, I see it as a settlement layer. You won't be doing your day-to-day transactions on Ethereum. You'll be doing them on maybe layer 2s like Polygon, ZK, EVM, and Proof of Stake and other chains. There might be some chain dedicated to gaming. There might be some chain dedicated to like NFTs and so on. So I definitely see multi-chain future, and I compare them with cities in the world. There are lots of major cities in the world where like everything happens. Some cities are famous for something, some cities are famous for everything, and all of them are growing at the same time. There are bridges, so you can go from one city to another, do business in one city, do business in another city, but it's not very cross-chain or cross-city in the sense that you can't have your one leg in one city and the other leg in the other city at the same time. It takes time to go from one place to another. And if we try to do it like on the blockchain, like have things simultaneously work on two different chains, it's gonna be hard. So for now, multi-chain, big proponent of that. I'm super bullish on that. Cross-chain will need some more time.
Okay, and so now we've talked about L1s. Let's go to L2s. We've seen the war of L1s before.
Yes.
Basically, it was TPS, it was like the incentives that were deployed, which brought more TVL,
Yeah.
what protocols are operating on what chain. Do you think that we will see the same thing in the L2, in the L2 war? Because that's what we are seeing right now. We have so many L2s which are being deployed. So basically, my question would be, what are the metrics that you should focus on in order to see which is, well, let's not say the best one, but the most, how can I say it? Well, let's say the best, but
Yeah,
you get my point.
Yeah, for sure. So we have learned from L1 wars a lots of things. For example, the incentives are good for kickstarting something, but that community doesn't stick around. Good example would be like Phantom gave out so many rewards and everything, and it got huge amounts of TVL when Solidly was launching and things like that. And then now it has lost maybe 99% or more from there already.
Yeah, and the multi-chain thing as well.
Exactly. that led to that made it lose more and so on. So these temporary rewards are like those people don't stick around. People stick around for organic reasons. If you look at Ethereum, use that as case study. People are not really there anymore for rewards or anything. Ethereum has maybe the lowest yields if you compare. People are there because it's just secure, it's stable, it works. And those are the properties that we want to bring in layer 2s. We want to make them secure, we want to make them stable, we want everyone to have trust in them and just use them because they work. The other thing obviously we need to get in layer 2s is affordability. They need to scale, they need to be cheap because they are at the end, like I see layer 2s to be competing against Ethereum, not anyone else. So if they are more expensive than Ethereum, it won't make sense to use layer 2s. So we definitely need to be cheaper, and everything else we just need to do what Ethereum is doing.
Okay, and L1s, L2s, will we see L3s? Because, for example, today solutions like Polygon, we have some ZK Sync, we have
Yes.
Optimism being deployed. So if we decide to put, for example, Twitter on the blockchain, each tweet is a transaction, then it would be usable. If we try to put PayPal, which has millions of users every day, which are paying each other, or Venmo or whatever, still it would be unusable. Do you think that we will see the emergence of L3s? And if so, at which point do we just realize that scaling will always be limited by the technical implementations?
So there are different ways to scale. Someone will definitely build L3. At L2, at Polygon, we are aiming to scale our L2s to the extent that Twitter, PayPal, Venmo, all of these companies can also run on L2s. So the way we are scaling is we have recursive proofs, and we are also trying to scale horizontally. So you can have like multiple provers work at the same time, and that way we can scale our throughput a lot just on L2 without going to the L3 level. But at the same time, there is no perfect approach. I'm sure like someone else would try to build it vertically rather than horizontally with provers. If you go vertically, then you have L1, L2, L3 and so on. And that way is also one way to scale, but it's harder when it comes to interoperability and so on, and user experience and so on. So our aim is like we just do it at the L2 level, and we have confidence that we will be able to do it.
Yeah, and also I think that we have seen this with curve wars, for example, that you have the first protocol, which is Curve, then on top of that you have Convex, then on top of that you have another protocol, another protocol. And so if Convex fails, then all the protocols which are built on top of that, they fail as well. So your protocol is as secure as your weakest element, basically.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, 100%. That's why like we only want Ethereum and our chain. We don't want a big chain. We trust Ethereum is secure. If being honest, like if Ethereum fails one day, our L2s will also fail. We are tied to Ethereum, but we are only tied to Ethereum. We don't care about anything else. Everyone else can go die. We'll still be fine.
Okay. Well, we've talked about the technical stuff, and now let's get a little bit into the personal stuff to end with. We'll really like to talk with people with experience, and so I have one question for you, because you are part of this group of people like Sam City Soon, you have yourself, you have Officer CIA, you have some other guys as well. What is it like being in a war room? So for those who don't know, a war room is basically a group chat which is created once the protocol gets hacked, and in order to trying to save some funds and basically do some white hat stuff. So how does it work? What is it like?
Yeah, for sure. The first few war rooms I was in, they were more stressful and tense. But over time, you realize that there are only so many things you can do, and you just do them. You don't care about things that are not in your control. If you start worrying about them, then it gets messy. If you are in a war room, then you just have to focus on what you can do, and you just do that. And it actually becomes an enjoyable experience. It's actually exciting to be in a war room. There's some thrill to it. So at some point, I don't know, I started enjoying it. But as long as I'm only doing things that I like, I'm doing technical stuff, I may be white hacking, I may trying to figure out how it happened, stopping any future hacks and so on. But there are, in a war room, there are many more things to do. You have to communicate with your with other people who are involved, your community. You have to get legal involved. You have to get you have to publicize statements. You have to reach out to the hacker and so on. There are many duties. I don't enjoy doing them. I know how they are done. I bring in other people to do it. So is the thing. Like, if you try to do everything, you'll just get stressed and burn out. But if you do just what you are good at and what you know how to do and you enjoy it, then war rooms are actually not that bad.
And we have seen recently that white hat, or maybe gray hat, was condemned by the U.S. Government, the U.S. Jurisdiction, or basically their crime division for hacking into a protocol. Even though he has returned the funds, he was charged with hacking or whatever. I don't know the exact term of it. But do you think that white hats may be basically, let's say, not in danger, but less incentivized to help protocols if they think that by doing that, they might be charged with criminal charges?
So I'm not sure which particular case you are referring to, but in general with white hats, the thing is, like, I want white hats to reach out to the protocol first, get advice from them and work on with them to do the white hack. But I don't want white hacks to go just randomly and try to white hack a protocol, because there are so many things that can go wrong. So if honestly someone just goes and white hacks a protocol without giving any notice to anyone, then I may not necessarily consider that as a white hack, even though they might return funds. Maybe they are gray hat, I won't say black hat. But a true white hack in my mind would reach out to the people involved and try to get more context with them, work with them, and make sure they are doing the white hack properly, rather than just risking it like a hero and trying to do it all by themselves.
Okay, it was the Crema finance hack that I was talking about, that he was recently charged with. We have two more questions left. So,
Yes.
Do you wish sometimes that you have stayed anonymous completely?
For some things, yes, but at the same time, I may or may not have other anonymous profiles. That's the beauty of anonymity. You only, people know your real face, that's good, but people don't know your non-real faces. So you can have best of both worlds. I'm happy I'm not anonymous, because it helps you build reputation and helps you build connections. But at the same time, I still have the choice of having some anon profile out there which nobody knows about.
Okay. Are you more enthusiastic now than you were when you joined the crypto space? Because you joined a few years ago, right?
Yeah.
We have seen so many evolutions. We have seen so many things happening, and we have seen some greed as well. And so, do you think that you are more enthusiastic now, or were you more enthusiastic before?
So I think the enthusiasm level is almost the same. I was enthusiastic then, I'm enthusiastic now. The only thing that has changed is, I think now I believe that it's possible. Like, it's really possible. Like, at that time, it was a crazy idea which I really liked on, and I was like, okay, maybe this will take on, maybe this will blow up, maybe this will work. Now I have confidence that yes, this is the way to the future.
Okay. And what is your end goal? Do you think that at some point you will create your own company, or what do you, basically, what is your goal in life? What do you want to achieve?
I don't even know which party I'm going tonight. I don't plan very long term. So my end goal really is to just do what I like doing. At this time, I like working with Polygon. I like the work I'm doing here, so I'm here. If I ever get bored, then I'll find something else I like. I don't know what that it might be. It might be my own company. It might be some other cool company. It might be, I don't know, I just retire and play guitar all day. Like, I don't know. I just want to have fun and do what I like.
Okay, and there is one last question that we ask all people that come to our interviews. And we do not only focus on crypto, we also talk about traditional finance, we talk about real estate, stocks, etc., etc. And so the question that we ask people that come here is, what do you personally invest in? What are you the most interested by? For example, we had people that invest in bottles of wine. We have some people that invested in Rolexes. There's some people that are passionate about real estate. Others are crypto, full crypto, up on lead.
Yeah.
So what's yours?
So I have a few investment theses and practices. One is like majority of mine is still in crypto, so that's completely separate, but I don't play around with that as much. Those are just long-term projects I believe in, mainly Ethereum and Polygon really. Then I have a small fund which I use to play around on DeFi. And if it sometimes it grows big, I take out money from it. Sometimes it falls, I then add more money to it. But it's my like educational fund in some sense. I'm happy to be rugged with that money. It's always a learning experience. I try new different protocols, like new strategies, new everything. And surprisingly, it had like over time, it had earned me more yield than my more stable strategy. So it's going well, and at the same time, I'm learning things. But the important thing to remember there is that money can be gone 100% any day. It's risky money, so I don't lose sleep overnight even if it's like all gone. And then on the traditional side, I'm relatively conservative. I have a bunch of index funds, so I've invested in the US index funds and Indian index funds just because I had exposure to India. So I played stable there. Additionally, I have so I cherry pick a few companies, mainly products that I personally use. Like I'm using, I won't name anyone, but if I'm using any company and I like their product, I will invest in them. I don't invest, it's like, it's not a very advanced investment thesis. It's just like, oh, this product is nice, I should invest and I do it. Not large amounts of money, just small. And same with angel investments. I see a startup which is doing nice, I like their product, I like the founders, I make some angel investments, and that has been my investment thesis so far.
Well, Mudit, thank you very much for coming. And do you have any final words that you would bring to the world and the French community?
Yeah. Come to the blockchain space, but stay safe.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.